There is a Divi 5 feature that I forgot to mention, which was released recently, and this feature is actually very interesting. Now, you know, we have our rows. Did you know that these rows can now be nested in Divi 5? Let me show you. Now, when you take a look at this page here, you'll be forgiven to think that it was just been designed, you know, using the old way of designing our websites. But I want to show you something very interesting. When I hover over here, you can see that we have our row that covers everything in here. So let me show you what that looks like if I were to go to our X-ray view here. So if I click on X-ray, you notice now that you have this first boundary here, and then you have this one, and then you have this one, and then you have this one as well. But let me show you what this looks like by recreating it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate a new row. So let's get rid of this one here. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to click here on this plus button and add a regular column. So we're going to go with single here for now. And in this single, what we're going to do is we're just going to add a text module. So we're going to go ahead and do that like that. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to come over here and just add our heading like that. Now, I know it looks very small, as you can see, but what we're going to do is we are going to use our SiteKrafter Pro framework. So to activate it, you want to come over here to Advanced, and then you're going to go to CSS ID and Classes, and then we're going to start by making this a heading. So we're going to say heading -L for large heading. And then, of course, we want to make it bold. So what we're going to do is we are going to say font -800. Okay, there we go. So I think that looks great for now. And then finally, we just need to center this. So we're just going to say center. So now we have our main heading and it is now centered. Okay, you know what? Actually, what I think we should do is we should come over here and delete this top one here because we can't really see clearly what we're working on. So now that I have this, you notice that if I click as if I'm adding a new module, you notice now it says add new module or row. This is very important because we never had this before. So when I click here, you notice now that we have this add new row right here, which is fantastic. So if I click on that, it means I can have my rows now nested. So I want to add a single row and I want to add some text. So let's go for our text module like that. And of course the text is a bit too much, so we're going to get rid of some of it like that. And then we're going to come over here to Advanced, CSS ID and Classes, and our class this time is going to be, let's go with text medium. Let's try large. Okay, we'll go with large, and again we're going to center this like that. Okay, great. So now that we have our text, our heading, we also want to add our call to action buttons. So we're going to click here, and this time we are going to add another row. So let's go ahead and add 2 columns, and in the first one it's going to be a button like that. Select it, and then I'm just going to duplicate it, and then I'm going to drag it over to the other side. So all I need to do now is to select this one here, and then I need to align it to the right by coming over here to Design, Alignment, and then we're going to align right. So now our buttons are closer, but they may be a bit too far. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the row settings here, and then we're going to come over here to Design, and then you're going to go to Sizing, use custom gutter width. So the gutter here is the space between the columns. So right now it's set to 3. You can set it to 4 if you want to make it wider, but in this case I'm going to set it to 2. Of course, if you set it to 1, then they're going to be very close. Okay, so let's set this to 2, and so far so good. But I know you're probably thinking I'm doing it the old way, but actually I'm not. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and color the rows so that you can see they are different. So we're going to start off with this one here. We're going to go to Advanced, CSS ID and classes. So first of all, I'm going to add a padding by setting this to PAD large. Okay. And then we're going to add a color. So we're going to say BG gray. And this is going to be gray, BG gray 200. Just so that you see where things are. Okay. So that's my first row. Now let's go on to our second row, which is this one right here. So I'm going to click and I'm going to give it a background color so you can see it. So I'm going to go to CSS ID and classes, and this one here is going to be BG dash gray, and this is going to be gray 300. Okay. So do you see that this one here is its own? And then we also have this one right here. So I'm going to go in and advanced CSS ID and classes, and this one here, let's give it a bit of a padding. So we're going to say padding, okay, large, or let's go with medium. Okay. And then we're going to say BG dash, and let's go with gray 400. How about that? All right. So now that we have gray 400, you notice now that we have all these columns. In fact, let me show you by adding padding onto this one here so you can really see that they're all different. So we're going to say PAD, oops, we're going to say PAD dash L. So we have 1, 2, 3. But now I've activated all of them. I mean, in fact, I've highlighted all of them so you can see these are all 3 rows, but in one big one. So that's the nested part of it. If I were to do this the old way, then it would be very, very tricky because I would have to go in, select this, add my text like that. And it's kind of weird why we couldn't do this. So now we can go to nested and we can go to add new row. But in the old way of doing things, after adding our row, we would need to add another row like that. And that's where my paragraph would be. And then we'll add another row, and that's where the buttons would be. But you see that this is different because this is its own row and so on. So I can't really put the rows inside other rows like what I did over here with one big row. So the advantages of designing this way is we can go in and add nests inside other nests, which makes the design even really, really exciting. So with this now, notice that we have this boundary here. So let's add another one. So I'm going to click on this plus button, and this time I want to say new row, and we're going to go with 3. Okay. So with this 3, I'm going to add, let's say, an image. I want to select it. And then we're just going to go in and choose our images. I'm going to go with this one. Upload image. Okay, so that's my first one. In fact, might as well just duplicate this twice. And then just drag this over here. Drag this over there. Okay. So if we want, we can always go in and change the image into something else. Like that. Okay. And then finally, let's go with this one. Okay, great. Oops. Okay, that's a bit too big. Let's go with this one. All right, so now that we have all our images, you notice that my row here, the one which is housing the images, okay, if you can't see it clearly, how about I go and give it a background? So this time I want to give it a background which is even darker. So we're going to say BG dash gray, let's go with gray 700. Okay, and then we're just going to give this a padding large. Now do you see all these are inside this big one? Isn't that cool? Okay, so we just want to come over here to design as well, go to sizing, and then we're just going to minimize the gap. Okay, there we go. So I have rows inside rows inside rows. Now if I wanted to add rows under this image, guess what? I can do that by coming over here to this plus button, and then it says add new row. So we could actually have 2 rows. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So this time, let's say I want to add another image just under that one. So we're going to come over here. We're going to choose our image. We're going to click on upload. Okay, look at that. And we can also come here again, add our image, select that, and we're going to choose another one, which is perhaps this one here. Okay, click on upload. So do you see now that under this image, I've managed to nest two images in that as well. So this allows us to design a sophisticated layouts, which we could not do before we had these nested rows. So this is really, really exciting. I really like this feature. I can't believe I forgot to do this tutorial. But as you can see here, this started off with one massive row, and then it went into these smaller rows until I get to this stage, but all in one major one. If you haven't signed up for Divi University yet, go ahead and do so. The link to that is in the video description below. Divi University is a community of Divi users, and we share tutorials and a lot of freebies. So go ahead and join. It's absolutely free. And also, you notice that I was using our framework, SiteKrafter Pro. It has a 40% discount. Go ahead and purchase SiteKrafter before the lifetime membership expires. The lifetime gives you access to pretty much everything, all the current products and also all the future products. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think about this feature in the comments box below. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.